out is how do I get everybody's picture at once?
Okay, we are live.
Oh, hi. Welcome everybody. Today is Tuesday, May 26, 2020. It is the virtual Zoom meeting for the planning board. We are today's first thing on the agenda is an application for approval of definitive plan, public hearing continued for Ridge Street, 43th lot, open space subdivision, Emerson Place. And George, if you could read that. Actually, is Nicole here? No.
Yes.
Okay, Nicole, could you read the thing?
Sorry about that. Town of Millis Office of the Planning Board notice of public hearing in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 41, Section 81T and 81U, Mass General Laws. The Planning Board will hold a public hearing Tuesday, May 22nd, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom platform on the application for approval of definitive plan submitted by TD Development, LLC, Robert Fox, 38 Benjamin's Gate, Plymouth, Massachusetts, 02360, for construction of a proposed 43-lot single-family residential development at 13 Rolling Meadow Drive, parcel 15-66, Ridge Street, several parcels, 20-25, 20-26, 20-28, 20-27, and 23-04, and a portion of 84 Ridge Street, parcel 20-53, Millis, Mass. Property is owned by TD Development, LLC, GJ&K, LLC, Ridge Street Trust, Peter Harkovitz, Joseph Hawks, and Amy Farina. A copy of the application and plan is on file in the office of the town clerk and on the planning board's webpage. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the application should appear at the time and place designated. Richard Nichols, Chair.
All right, thank you. I just also want to let people know that there were some emails sent on from some of the residents in the affected area asking for possible sidewalks on Ridge Street, which was one of the things that was discussed that the developer might be willing to do for in not having to build them on site in the development. So there were several emails received, and we just wanted to make sure that was noted, that we did see them and we also did read them. So, Dan, if you wanted to go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dan Merrican with Legacy Engineering here on behalf of the applicant. Tonight, my goal is just to do two things, which is to give you a quick overview of the changes that we've made. We've submitted a complete set of revised drawings and a response letter and a new drainage report. Beta is in the process of reviewing that information, so we don't have a review in hand, but I'm just going to go over some highlights with you. And the second thing that I'd like to do is go through the waiver requests so that we can talk about each of them and we can go over them. So the plan design has not changed very significantly. There's only one change really. And let's see, can everyone see a red dot on the screen? This is a new feature of Zoom.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, so there were two stormwater basins down here just south of June Way. We've eliminated them in favor of making the stormwater basin between April Way and June Way larger. So we kind of simplified the drainage design a little bit. Beyond that, it's a lot of notes. It's more detailed information on the three culvert crossings that are under the existing cart paths that lead in from Ridge Street and Rolling Meadows. And I could just review that. Taking a little while to load these sheets up. Sorry for that slow feed here. we're getting to it. Okay, so this is the north end coming in off a rolling meadow. There's an existing cart path that comes in, kind of meanders in from the end of Paddock, and it comes right down through here. There's an existing pipes crossing for the wetland area. You can see right here we have this very narrow wetland area. There's a cart path that comes right through here. So we're coming through that same area, and as part of our work, we're going to remove the piped crossing, and we're going to replace it with a box culvert, which is what conservation commissions like to see, kind of an effort to restore what was once an original stream bed to a stream bed-like condition. And we're doing the same thing on the south side, where we have the same thing. We have an existing cart path right here. We have an existing cart path that comes in off of Ridge and goes right along through here and all the way up into the property. And our road is right on top of that cart path. So you can see that in this area here, these are old farmers' ditches here. There is presently a culvert underneath those cart paths. It looks to be an old stone culvert. So we are going to, as part of our work, we're going to put a concrete open bottom box culvert in each of those two crossings to, again, restore those two areas to a stream bed-like condition. And that's done and designed in accordance with a document produced by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to specifically provide guidance on how to accommodate stream crossings with driveways and roads.
Dan, so I'm reading on the plan right now that says that's an intermittent stream. So basically, that is seasonal, correct?
Well, we have documentation that shows all three of these are seasonal. There are three streams. Let me go back here to the overview. Okay, so there are three streams on the site. On the south side, there's these two. They're all dug stream channels, dug ditches that I'm sure go back to the days when this property was farmed. These two, the one that I'm highlighting now is depicted on a USGS map as intermittent, so it's presumed to be intermittent. This one, which is closest to Ridge Street, is depicted on a USGS map as perennial, so it starts off with an initial presumption that it's perennial, but we have documented it on many occasions dry as a bone and not flowing at all. And when we have submitted some of that documentation to the Conservation Commission, we're going to be submitting more. And basically, once you document that it's not flowing on any 4 days in a 12-month period, it becomes an intermittent stream. And we have the same documentation for this northerly channel. So two of the channels start off with a presumption that they're perennial, but through field documentation and field evidence, they become intermittent.
So that these things, it's not like you're putting a culvert in for like the Boggerstone Road. These come and go with the seasons. Yeah, and these channels are maybe 6 or 7 feet wide at the top. At the bottom, they're not very big. It's not Boxstone Brook, and they are definitely dry during periods of the year. It depends on the stream. The two southerly channels seem to dry up quite frequently. I've been up and down them many times when there's no water in them at all. The northerly channel dries up less frequently, but we do have the documentation that shows that as being intermittent. All right, great, thank you. So on the topic of waivers, we have 9 waiver requests, and I just want to go through them so that we can talk them through, and I can make sure that I understand what the board's view is. And I'm going to go right down the list that's on the cover sheet on the plans. The first waiver is to require a sidewalk on only one side of each proposed roadway. So
we have the plan drawn with only one sidewalk. That is the practice of the planning board historically, is to only require one sidewalk. The board has historically been of the view that two sidewalks is unnecessary in an environment like this and just adds unnecessary impervious coverage. And what the board has done in the past is condition the granting of this waiver on the applicant providing funds. So the applicant writing a check to the town in an amount roughly equal to what the applicant's cost would have been to install those sidewalks in the subdivision. And then the town, those funds go into an account that the town holds, a sidewalk account, and the town can use those funds to do whatever they want with. They can use them to repair existing sidewalks, they can use them to build new sidewalks. And I do want to clarify that I know that some of the residents on Ridge Street submitted emails and requests that the sidewalk be installed on Ridge Street. I will tell you that that is going to be problematic in some areas. In some areas, the layout of Ridge Street is not wide enough to hold a sidewalk. Particularly from our proposed road to Kirk Street and over towards Auburn Road, the layout of Kirk Street, in other words, that portion that the town owns, is not wide enough to support a sidewalk continuously from our project to either of those roads. And those roads don't have sidewalks on them. So, this applicant is not really looking to go out and build sidewalks on the public roads around the project. Between our subdivision and the adjacent Rolling Meadow and Paddock Lane subdivision, there's well over a mile of sidewalks that will be in place between the two subdivisions, which provides a great opportunity for people who live in those subdivisions or even in the surrounding areas to walk on these roads on a sidewalk. But trying to put a sidewalk on Ridge Street would be a lot of work for the town to undertake. It may be something that the town chooses to undertake with the funds that the applicants provide the town. But I would note that, the selectmen would have to do some widening of the layout of Ridge Street, and that would involve some takings of people's property across the frontage so that, you could create a path for the sidewalk to be located. So there is roughly 3,500 linear feet of sidewalk in our subdivision that would not be installed if this waiver were granted. So we would ask the board to ask Beta to prepare an estimate of what the developer's cost would be for that 3,500 linear feet of sidewalk, and then that would become the dollar value that the developer would donate to the town in exchange for the granting of the waiver.
Okay, we're not going to discuss that right now. We'll discuss everything at the end. You can go on to number 2.
Okay. Number 2 is there's a requirement to put in fire alarms and police call boxes. These would be hardwired. This is an old provision of your regulation. The town does not install hardwired fire alarm systems anymore. They have a radio system. So this is something that we ask for a waiver on for every single project because the fire department doesn't use these anymore. Number 3, to allow less than 7 feet of cover over a sewer line. So let me pull up some profiles here. We have gravity sewer coming in from Ridge Street. It's about 14 feet down in Ridge Street, which is nice because it allows us to extend gravity sewer through a lot of the projects. This is something that we're in front of the select board for. The select board issues sewer and water extension permits, and they have their own peer review consultant that reviews the sewer and water system design on their behalf for those permits. And when we come in, so this is the main road through the project, which is May Road. This is the Ridge Street end. So you can see the existing sewer manhole here down at Ridge Street is about 14 feet down, and we're coming in at basically minimum slope, 0.5% on the sewer line. And there are places where we cannot accommodate 7 feet of cover over the sewer without, doing a lot of filling, particularly at the ends. So this is down as you get down towards the last few houses on May Road, heading towards Rolling Meadow. You can see here that we have an area here where we have less than 7 feet of cover over the sewer. It's our view. We could change that out and replace it with low pressure sewer, but it's our view that it's preferable to have the gravity sewer wherever you can get it. So those sewer mains have about 4 feet cover. It's enough to get a service out. It's enough to get a service to the adjacent homes. It's certainly something that is reasonable to construct. It is more ideal. Go ahead.
On that one, Dan, sorry. With that data's here, I personally don't have an issue with the 4 feet, getting down to 4 feet, because that's below frost. I'd weigh in on what Jim had to say, but I don't see an issue with that. And we prefer gravity, because gravity doesn't break.
Right. I don't know, does Melissa want to weigh in on that at all?
I'm not sure if she's here yet. She was in. Okay, go ahead, Melissa.
I do. Yep. Hello. Yeah, I think that gravity is preferable.
Okay.
What material is the pipe there, Dan?
The gravity?
No,
I mean,
material.
the gravity
Material.
main is SDR 35. Yeah, so.
Yeah. I'm sure
Okay,
the
so
manufacturers.
So we have a couple of places where we have, less than 7 feet of cover, and wherever we can accommodate gravity sewer, that's what we're proposing. The fourth waiver request is something that you see from me on every subdivision we do. Your regulations are a little outdated in how stormwater basins are supposed to be designed. They call for sloped bottoms with a low flow channel in the middle. Stormwater basins now are designed predominantly with flat bottoms to allow as much water to infiltrate as possible. Basically, the flatter the bottom of the basin, the better, because the water all spreads out around the entire basin bottom and can soak in the ground across the basin bottom instead of being collected in one, corner of the basin. So that is a waiver request to have flat bottoms, and this is a design practice that is recommended by Mass DEP as part of their stormwater management standards. The next one would be to allow streetlights to be only located at intersections. And I did want to get some feedback from the board. What we've done in the past here is we've only put a streetlight at the main intersections. So we'd have one at the main road and Rolling Meadow, at the main road and Ridge, and also at the main road at its intersection with June Way and April Way. So the question for the board is that coming in either end, there's a pretty good distance of road where there are no homes on it. Coming in from Rolling Meadow, there's about 700 feet of road where we're coming in and we're crossing the wetlands and we're basically just traveling through a wooded area. And on the other end, we have...
Dan, hey, could you pull that up so the people at home can see? I know, I kind of know what you're talking about, but it'd be good if
That's this here. I'm going to highlight it in a minute.
Okay.
On the other end, it's the same thing. We have about 700 feet coming in where we don't have any homes along the road. So the question for the board is, in this area, right through here, where we're going to have a light at the intersection, and then we're going to start having post lights at the end of every driveway here. But in this 700 feet, do you want me to have a couple of streetlights? I was thinking that maybe we'd add a streetlight just before the crossing and then just after the crossing, and that would space them out every 300 feet or so, through that first 700 feet. And then you get into an area where you have houses up close to the streets and they all have post lights next to their driveways, within 10 feet of the road. And that's been the practice in subdivisions for a long time now. So this is because this is an open space project and we have these fairly long stretches on either end of the main road where we don't have any houses. I'm wondering if the board wants me to add some streetlights there.
Chairman, I'd be much in favor of that, just as one.
Yeah, I mean, we can discuss it afterwards. We'll discuss all of them afterwards, but I don't think, I wouldn't be opposed to adding just a few.
Okay. All right, I'll make note of that. The next one is you have a provision which basically says that try to put stormwater basins on single lots. This is an open space subdivision, so you can see that in trying to balance the open space requirements, we need to put some of these stormwater basins on the backs of lots because we can't slide them all into the open space. So it results in stormwater basins being located across several lots. We do this quite frequently. We have an easement in place that allows for that, but this is stormwater basin 1, for example, which is half in the open space and half in 5 lots. Stormwater basin 2 is a very similar setup where we have, this is the stormwater basin, and it's mostly in the open space, but it also gets into the very back of some of these lots along April Way. And then stormwater basin 4, which used to be stormwater basin 6, is only capturing runoff from the yard areas of the adjacent homes. It's not actually picking up any street runoff. So this basin here spans across the backs of 4 lots, and it's only there to pick up the yard runoff from those 4 lots. So that's the nature of that waiver request. Again, another waiver that we see fairly often, so that we can spread out these stormwater basins and make them as big and shallow as possible. The 7th request is to allow stormwater piping to be HDPE instead of concrete. This is something that we did talk about, I think, at the beginning in our initial presentation. People used to install reinforced concrete pipe for drain lines. That used to be the standard practice. Now, it's much more common to see high-density polyethylene pipe in all applications for drainage piping. So we are asking a waiver to allow us to use HDPE pipe throughout the subdivision instead of RCP pipe. I don't know if Jim or Melissa wanted to weigh in on that at all.
Melissa, do you have any comments on that, or we could wait till the end?
I don't have any comments on it this time. Not a big issue.
It's something we'll have to review. I'm not opposed to it, but I'll review it with Melissa ahead of time.
Okay. And the last one is kind of a minor item, to not require changes in pipe sizes across the drain manholes to be matched in elevation at the crown of the pipes. I'm sorry, 8 and 9 are related. So 8 is to allow less than 4.5 feet of cover over main drain lines. And then number 9 is to basically allow us to match the inverts instead of the crowns. Let me give you an example of that. We do this in order to basically minimize the amount of earthwork that's necessary. So this is the beginning of May Road, coming in off a rolling meadow. And at our stream crossing here, which is this is our stream crossing, this is our box culvert that we're going to install. Presently there's just a 24-inch pipe through there. We're going to put in I think it's a 9-foot wide box culvert. And we have a pair of catch basins right here at the low spots. And then we're picking up that runoff and we're draining it all the way back along the road and out through the open space into stormwater basin 1. That allows us to take all this runoff from the beginning part of this road, and instead of discharging it into the wetland system, we can discharge it into our stormwater basin where it gets treatment, it gets infiltration, and then it overflows out towards the wetland area. In order to minimize cuts and fills, we basically design our drainage system to have basically the minimum amount of cover that you need over a drain line. For the purposes of structural stability, these drain pipes can have as little as 12 inches of cover. That's not the issue. The issue is more being able to get a catch basin rim or a drain manhole frame and cover and a flat top manhole structure. You need the top of the pipe to be down around 2 feet, 2.5 feet. And that's what we've done here in a couple of locations, basically to minimize cuts and fills. Rather than bringing in another 2 feet of fill across this wetland crossing, we design it for basically the minimum practical depths of cover that we need to be able to get our pipes in the ground and get the water collected and discharged to our stormwater basin. And these pipes are all designed to accommodate the 100-year storm. A lot of these catch basins are in little bellies in the road, so that actually contributes to being able to get more water into the catch basin grates. So that's why, and you can see if I zoom in on here, you can see we're going from 12-inch laterals on the catch basins here to 15-inch main drain line, and we're matching inverts instead of matching crowns. So if we were to match crowns, what we'd have to do is we'd have to drop this drain line down 3 inches, to match the crowns. But, our HydroCAD analysis demonstrates that with matching inverts, everything functions fine, and it captures the flow that we need to capture, and it conveys it to our stormwater basin.
And one question for you. So,
Yeah.
So you're matching the invert. Will any standing water be below 4 feet? Are we worried about freezing in those?
No, these things don't hold standing water. I mean, the catch basins hold standing water. But what happens is, because catch basins are so deep, you get down about 4.5 feet into the ground, and the ground's always 50, 55 degrees all the time, summer or winter. So what that does is that basically brings all the temperature of the water sitting in the catch basin to that temperature of the ground, and you rarely see any icing in a catch basin. And the regulations actually allow catch basin pipes to only have 2.5 feet of cover. It's just the mainline piping. I'm not sure what the purpose of the regulation is, but it really we're only asking for the waiver for the main drain line cover.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So those are the waivers. So,
All right.
You want to talk about them now?
Do you have anything else to present, or is that, because I think what I wanted to do is run through everything at the end.
Okay. No, that's what I have for you tonight.
Okay.
Kate is in the process of reviewing everything. I'll leave it to Melissa to let us know how long she thinks that might take. But, at this point, we would be, after we finish our discussion tonight, would be asking for a continuance until a time when Beta has their comments ready, and then we can reconvene and see what's left on the list to address.
All right. So let's talk about the waivers. Let me start first. So I want to put the sidewalks aside for a minute. I don't have an issue with the call boxes. That's a standard. The drainage cover, that makes sense to me 100%. Stormwater basin, that's something we've done in the last couple. The streetlights, I would say adding the couple in that long stretch makes some sense just to mark out the road. The stormwater on multiple lots, it seems like it makes sense to me. That would be covered, Dan, in the COA. So if there's any issues with that, maintenance of those, it doesn't matter because you have to have something in there to cover that.
Yeah, we submitted a draft HOA. We create a homeowners association.
The HOA, sorry. Yeah.
All the lots the 43 lots that are in the project would be in a homeowners association. They're responsible for two things. They're responsible for maintenance of the open space, unless the town wants to own the open space, but I think prior discussions amongst the board was that they didn't want to. So the homeowners association will own the open space in the project, and they will also be responsible for maintaining all the drainage systems outside of the street layouts.
Right.
And I've submitted documents, for you to forward to town council that creates that association.
Okay. the HDPE pipe, that's something that Jim wanted to weigh in, but I don't have an issue with that. They do it everywhere else. The 4.5 inches of cover matching the inverts makes sense to me. So I'll let Melissa weigh in on any of those couple of comments. And like I said, I do want to roll back to the sidewalk with the whole board on that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Planning Director. At some point, I would like to make some comment on the street light right now, but.
All right, I'm just trying to figure out. Oh, is it Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. What did you want to say, Bob?
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'll look at it now. Well, the purpose behind, or one of the purposes behind open space zoning, of course, is to enhance the environment and to enhance the area's wildlife. And I understand that the need, of course, for safety when necessary. But I believe that the lighting, if we did not go with the extra lighting that Mr. American is proposing, that would be all right with me. Also, it would I would cite best practices for preserving dark skies on that as well. And also, I don't know if the developer installing the post lighting, the welcome lights at each plot, but if so, is the bug rating, the backlighting, the uplighting glare, is that being taken into consideration? And those are my comments.
So on that one, Dan would have to weigh in on that, but
So we, historically, what we've done with these light posts, it's just a traditional residential lantern post, with 60-watt bulbs in it, and it only illuminates a small area around it. They're only, probably 7 or 8 feet above ground. We have traditionally put one of those at the end of every driveway in the subdivision, and that basically provides just a low level of illumination along all the roads, and it also provides a low level of illumination along sidewalks.
and that's fine. I mean, your point, Bob, is I work in Weston. They do a lot of dark sky. It's the trade-off between that is a long stretch. There is a culvert there, but people have their headlights on also. So that is a valid point.
Yeah.
Does anyone else on the board have a thought on that?
Yeah, again, I'm in favor of the 3 lights in the darkened area. I helped to review it. I'm not ready to say yes or no, but right as of tonight, I'm in favor of the lights in the darkened area, especially if it's a wooded area, and we're talking about 2 crossings over a culvert. How deep is it? Can a car go off the road? Is that going to eliminate guardrails or something to protect it? So again, I'll have to look at the plans before I'll make a final decision on it. Thanks.
We have guardrails, just so you know, at those 2 crossings. We have guardrails. But, it is, it's kind of a safety consideration. That's a pretty long stretch of road, and are walking at night, and there's heat, it can get pretty dark.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
are there going to be streetlights at both ends coming off of Ridge and Rolling Meadow?
Yes.
Okay. And I assume there'll be LEDs or some sort of energy efficiency?
Whatever the town standard is. The town has a standard streetlight spec, and the developer will just go see Jim and find out whatever the town's standard specifications install. Usually the power company has a standardized light pole for each community, and that's what we use.
The only thing I think we might want to weigh in on that is to check with there's the one neighbor that your road goes right into straight on. They had mentioned earlier about putting some bollards or something so people didn't drive in their front yard. We may want to reach out to them on the placement of the street light, just to make sure they're aware of it.
Okay. We could also move that light a little back on the intersection.
Well, that's why I'm asking. I mean, it makes sense to, say, hey, we're thinking of putting it right at the intersection, and if they have an issue, you move it back a little bit. That would maybe, ease everyone's concerns.
Okay.
And wasn't there another waiver of the road width? What was that?
No. I mean, we talked a couple meetings ago about maybe reducing the paved width from 26 down to something less than that, in the spirit of minimizing impervious coverage, but I did not get the impression that the board was in favor of that.
I'm glad we're not, but I just wanted to make sure that was, so they're just going to be regular 26.
Yeah, this is a standard 26-foot road with slope granite edging along the road, just like everything else now.
All right, and anyone else on the board have a comment to make?
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Riley?
If we, with regards to getting back to the light at the end of, on Rolling Meadow, considering that there's a home on either side of that, we're creating now corner lots, whichever side of the street, I'm assuming it would be the north side of the street is where the light fixture would go. I would like to allow that homeowner as well be able to have a comment with regards to the placement of the light fixture, or just get some input, because while I agree setting the light fixture back a little bit may be beneficial for the Cases who live directly across, if it's set too far back, I also don't want to have it too close to the home that is right there, and now suddenly have a street light in their bedroom windows all night long.
Okay, that makes sense. Dan, could you, do you think you could, maybe pick a placement, reach out to both those people that would be affected?
Yeah, I don't have contact information for them, but
I'm sure Camille would.
Yeah, let me see what I can do.
And Mr. Chairman, just one last comment as energy manager for the town. We're talking about glare getting into neighbors' yards and such. Then we don't have a standard for lighting, and I don't believe that Eversource has either. But we, as you know, we've installed LEDs for our lighting. I think that would be the best type of lighting here, less glare.
Yeah, that's fine. We actually installed 2,500K LED lights in the town. I reviewed that with Jim when they went to make that decision, so that's fine. Boda, I think, did you want to say something?
I'm concerned about the safety. May I speak in the end, or now I can speak now?
You can speak now. Sorry, I didn't realize you were raising your hand. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm concerned about the safety because many people from their local residents, they are concerned with the safety, okay? Just a couple days ago, one motorcycle hit a boy, a small boy. We couldn't find out the motorcyclist. That's why the light and road safety we need. That's why I always request people that the developers, contractors always should address the local residents. Many people, they are concerned with the safety. Please.
Okay, I just want to just recap what I just want to make sure I understood. So you were saying that local residents are concerned with the septic? Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can let Dan and Beta go back to that.
Just a couple days ago, one motorcyclist hit one boy, local boy, but we could not find out that motorcyclist. In the daytime, and the project developer, they are saying that it's for 20, 30 years. no traffic, heavy traffic. But when we made any project, we should think about 50, 100 years. Middle East is very fast in developing the town. Not for 23, 30 years. You can't say that traffic is very low. In the night time, if anybody kills any person, then what happens? Thanks God, one is a motorcycle, it's the boy, he's safe. That's why please always think about 200, 300 years.
Okay, so like I said, unfortunately your speaker's breaking up a little bit. So you were talking about safety, is what you were talking about? Okay, that was my mistake. I thought you were saying something.
The local residents.
Right.
And address
Okay.
local resident concern.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure specifically on safety. I mean, they did a traffic study, and I can let Dan probably speak to that first, where they reviewed the amount of traffic that would be in and out of the area, and they were willing to put up street signs. I'm sorry, I missed that last part. Boda, did you have something else? I missed that part, sorry.
But that's it. Traffic signs, lights, sidewalks. If we give to the town hall, they have long procedure. But the contractor should do now.
Okay. Well, they have been willing to put up signage. They have already talked about doing lighting.
Yes.
And I'm not sure what else they would be able to do on that, that you would be, that they haven't already taken care of.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the street lights at Ridge Street, that should help with the intersection that's in question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that we could position the light, that it should help light up that intersection. I don't believe there's a light there.
There isn't.
There isn't? No.
No, I just looked on Google Earth. There's no light on there's a pole near that intersection. There's no light on it.
Yep. And where the placing of the lights are, it doesn't make a difference with Eversource. We own the lights. You know, we can get a permit if we choose to put light up that intersection. You know, we can further discuss that further with Bob, myself, and Dan and Melissa. But, you know, we'll wait to discuss the sidewalks when we get, you know, when you're ready about that.
Okay.
I put out a note that specifies that the placement of the light poles at the intersections would be determined in the field, you know, in conjunction with DPW.
Yeah, that would be fine. I think that you know, we want to make sure that they, you know, I'm sure Dan would have taken his best shot at it, but I wouldn't be offended to have it reviewed in the field. So the only other question, so that gets us down to the initial one, would be the sidewalk. So on the sidewalk, you had 3,500 lineal feet of sidewalk that you would have had to put in.
Yes.
So. And your comment of putting in that amount of sidewalk in your location versus the Ridge Street location is slightly different, and I understand that. But what I would say is that I think part of what the push has been is to actually make sure that sidewalk goes in that area. Whether you have to work with the town to work with the easements and you know, the sidewalk committee or whatever, but I think the you know, the emphasis would be to put a sidewalk in of 3,500 feet in on Ridge Street. And like I said, maybe you could work in conjunction with the town. I'm not sure if Jim could reach out to them on that, or the select board. But I don't think I would say that the town should be willing to help on that, using our own sidewalk funds along with your developer.
Well,
I I know it's not apples to apples. I understand.
Yeah, you're getting into messy territory here. One of the things that I want to come back to and kind of reiterate is there are several places along Ridge Street where you don't own enough room. You, being the town, do not own enough room to install a sidewalk, which means the selectmen now have to go do a taking.
Right. So, do you have enough information to identify those areas to work with the select board to
Well,
no.
Rich, you know better than, you do this every day. You do this every day for a living. First, we'd have to, not even before design, we'd have to, do a survey of the property. Whether, I'm sure Dan's not gonna do the whole survey, so there'll be a survey being done, then there'll be a design being done, and right there, I mean, that's the cost of almost the 3,500 linear feet that he's talking about. I think this issue of sidewalks and roads, this is a selectman issue. It's got nothing to do with the planning board. The planning board issue is that, the funds in the past we've done, I mean, if not, then the developer should just, you know what, I'm gonna put sidewalks on both sides, and so be it. And then we'll have another bunch of sidewalks and roads that, the selectmen will have to worry about maintaining. This, to me, is a selectman issue. This is their purview. They're the commissioners of the public works, and they need to come up with funding for the roads and sidewalks in Millis, not the planning board.
Okay. I mean, it's some good feedback. I just, hearing the concern of the neighbors, we don't want it to be not acknowledged. Just knowing the hurdles that we need to get over, which I think you spelled out pretty well, it is helpful.
It's a valid point. I mean, honestly, Mr. Chairman, if, faced with the cost of having to go out and design a sidewalk on Ridge Street, which is complicated, the design is expensive, the survey is expensive, dealing with all the property rights issues is expensive, the applicant would be probably better off, as Jim says, just putting a second sidewalk in the development, which is not really to anyone's advantage. The applicants, whatever dollars the applicant would have spent on that second sidewalk in the subdivision, the applicant's willing to give that to the town, for the town to do whatever they think is appropriate with it.
No, and I understand. It's, the question was raised. I think we kind of walked through it to raise the difficulties of it, and I think we'll have to make our decision, on the facts.
So I think a key piece of information is having, this is something that your consultants do. We certainly can tell you what we think that sidewalk is worth, but, I think that the board should request that your consultant, Beta, come up with an estimate on what the contractor's cost would have been to install the 3,500 feet of sidewalk in the project, and she's gonna come up with a dollar value, and we're either gonna say, yeah, that makes sense, or no, we think that's kind of crazy. Let's review that, but we can't leave that question open-ended. We kind of have to have a number to fill in the blank there, so that if you do decide to grant the waiver, you know what the number is, and the waiver is going to say, yes, we grant the waiver for only sidewalk on the condition that the applicants, pay X tens of thousands of dollars, and it is tens of thousands of dollars, to the town of Millis for the cost of the sidewalk that will not be built.
Okay, well, that makes sense. I think I've already talked to Melissa about that earlier today. So we were going to walk through our discussion tonight, and it seems to me, and outlast the other rest of the board, that seems to make sense to them. I would say we would go ahead and ask Beta to produce that number.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Riley?
I have to concur with what Mr. Kay has said. This is not our jurisdiction. Quite frankly, I think if we were to impose this upon the developer and he were to challenge it in court, I don't believe we would win, which would simply incur another couple of tens of thousands of court and legal fees. because we don't have the jurisdiction for this. I fully agree that something needs to be done on Ridge Street, but if this were not one development, just as another way to look at it, if this were, this lot is on, property is owned by multiple people. If one person was putting in a lot and two people were somebody else was putting in two lots, we wouldn't be asking for this. It's not the developer, it's not a private owner's responsibility to make the corrections to town property that the town has failed to do itself. Not to mention, if the town has to deal with eminent domain takings, you may have one person on Ridge Street that says, no, I'm not giving up 6 inches, and could drag it out for years in court. And it's not appropriate for the developer to be tied up with that. So I do believe it is the town's responsibility, which means that it's the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. It's not for us to be imposing as a condition on any sort of special permit.
Okay, thank you. We actually also earlier reached out to town council on this also, so we're just waiting for their reply. We'll see what they come back. It's probably going to be what you said, as one lawyer to another. They'll probably come up with the same answer. If everyone is comfortable, do we want to we'll walk through? Well, actually, Dan, you're going to present these to us in the next for us to vote on.
Well, I think at this point we need to find out how long Beta thinks they need to review the new plans, and then schedule another meeting. I'll start to put together some language, for some of these issues and some suggested conditions based on some of the prior projects that we've been involved with, and the standard conditions that you guys have for subdivision approvals.
Okay, and earlier I did walk through, my specific thoughts on, what I thought of the waivers that he asked for, which most of them seemed fine. If anyone else had a comment, please make it now on that. But everything else that he asked for seemed reasonable.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Riley?
Just getting back to the comment you had brought up when, a couple meetings ago, when Mr. and Mrs. Kazis were present, and they were talking about, they live opposite the entrance on Rolling Meadow, and wanting some sort of bullet there so that if somebody came barreling through the intersection, they didn't end up in the front of their house. I don't have Google Maps pulled up, but Dan, can you tell me the house that's on Ridge Street, right around that corner, are they opposite? Could the potential for where May Street comes out onto Ridge, are they opposite the driveway or the house? Is that something we should be looking at, similar protection that house should have?
Oh, on Ridge Street. So on Rolling Meadow, I am looking at Google Earth. Our driveway comes out kind of on the property line between the two houses across the street. It's slightly more towards the Cases side, but it does, the road does kind of point at their side yard, not at their house. On the Ridge Street side, give me a second here. On the Ridge Street side, our road comes out across from their driveway. Their home, the home at, I think it's number 15 Ridge, is off to the right of our road. So our road is not going to come out and point at their house. It's going to kind of point at the woods and the mouth of their driveway.
Okay. I was just curious if that was something we should be considering, but I wasn't sure exactly where the layout was. So thanks for that in.
Okay.
And then with regards to that, if that's the case, if their house is a little more to the right, I would have the same question, the same potential concern with if we're putting the street light at the corner of May and Ridge at that intersection. We just want to be cautious that there there's no flow over of light into that 15 ridge into their home.
Yeah, we have that light positioned on the south side, so it would be kind of pointing to the north. It would be pointing towards Curve Street, which is away from their home.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was it, Mr. Nichols. I will, with regards to the stormwater and piping, I will defer to Melissa, since that's way above my pay grade.
All right, great. Anyone else have anything that they want to bring up?
Mr. Chairman, just as stated, I agree with the coverings and all that. I will work with Melissa before the next meeting and get Dan back an answer. We've done a couple of reviews already and got Dan some answers, but we will have something more concrete for you by your next meeting.
Okay, great. All right, so I think on that we can continue this to our next meeting. And Dan, you have enough information on the feedback from on the waivers to have enough knowledge to go forward?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. All right, I make a motion that we continue the public hearing.
Rich, could I just suggest that you ask Melissa how much time they need?
Oh, yeah. See, that's why you're there. You have all those good questions. Melissa, how much time do you need to get it done? Other than you can have it done by Friday, right?
No.
Our next meeting is scheduled for June 9th. Does that give you enough time?
Yeah, I'm going to try and get this wrapped up because I know that I believe you're also on the agenda, Dan, for the Concom on the 8th. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
So, and I think the Board of Health meeting's on the 8th as well. So, yeah, I'm going to try and get it done the Thursday before that for all the boards. Trying, one big review is my goal.
When you are planning. Emily.
Dan, is there any, in regards to the intermittent perennial stream that you're going to, I'm sure, go through with the Concom, I guess, on the 8th?
Yep.
Is there any impact if that doesn't go the way you want it to go?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I give you the short answer here. The two southern streams are probably going to dry up in the next 3 or 4 weeks, eliminating all question on that topic. Then the northerly stream will take longer to dry up. So I don't know if that is going to dry up again during this permitting process or if we're going to rely on record observations. So if the northerly stream were to become perennial, we've kept everything except for the road crossing outside the inner riparian zone, outside the 100-foot riparian zone. And I don't really anticipate that there would be any changes. It wouldn't affect, I don't see how it would affect our open space layout or design or anything like that.
Oh, and I think the other thing I came across, and we can talk about it offline, and this might be something to coordinate with Jim, but was the first defense units that are within those are within the right-of-way or the roadway that would potentially be part of the town's operation maintenance if the town takes ownership of the roads?
Yeah, well, now that I have Jim on the horn here, there are two at the beginning of May Road, and I have this picture up right here on the Ridge Street end. There are 2 first defense treatment units, Jim, which are the ones that get serviced by a vac truck. So I guess Melissa's question is that something that the town can maintain, or is that something that you want the association to maintain, even though it's going to be in a public way?
So I'm thinking back on the last couple, on 2 or 3 others that are, even that they're in the public way, that the homeowners association does own. I know one that we own, and there's another one that it's in the public right of way, but they maintain them. So let me research that on, and I'll get back to you on that. Right now I'm saying that yes, the homeowners association should maintain them.
All right, I don't think that's a big deal. So if you could just let me know what you think,
Sure.
and then we can just amend the proposed O&M document to stipulate that.
Sounds good. Again, like you said, I think this is the best.
Okay.
Melissa, now that I let you talk after I cut you off earlier, are you pretty much set now, you think?
Yeah, no, those are the two things I just wanted to ask about. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see when I get to and when I review it.
Okay, great. Why don't we, we'll continue this meeting until the 9th. Was that the date that we were looking for?
Yeah.
Okay, Camille?
Yes, and you can go for 7:30 p.m.
Okay, all right, so I make a motion that we continue this public hearing till June 9th.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? I have to do it as a roll call, so aye.
I'm not in favor. It should be after the election.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm not in favor. It should be after the election, June 22nd.
Okay, so that would be a no. Okay, that's fine. George?
Aye.
Jim, aye.
Yeah.
Josh, aye.
Okay,
Nicole, aye.
all right. And I'm an aye. All right, so you have that, Camille?
So just so I'm, Boda, you're not supporting the continuation of the public hearing?
No,
Okay.
after June 22nd.
No, the next meeting is June 9th.
You can do that by majority. I'll be present, but I'm not in favor of June 9th.
You're in favor of June 9th?
I'm not in favor of June 9th.
Okay,
He's not in favor of June 9th, so he's opposed.
okay.
All right, so the motion passed. This will be continued till June 9th.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Dan.
Good night, Dan.
All right, and the next thing on our meeting would be, I think it would be the,
Approval of the minutes.
yep, okay, so I read the minutes for our last meeting, which would have been May 12th,
Opposing answer. Never back.
and I make a motion that we approve the minutes from May 12th.
Seconded.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, great.
Because I abstained since I was not present on the 12th.
It was a
You were having your birthday.
I was having my birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right, great. So the motion was approved.
I was enjoying chocolate cake from Muffin House, so.
Yeah, all right.
What?
That would be good.
It was. My daughter's karate team. It was fun.
39, I love it.
Yeah. Okay, you're my favorite person, George.
All right, so I think that was it on our thing. We have the next meeting scheduled for the 9th, and I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just one quick thing, our meeting will most likely be via Zoom again, from what I understand, so be prepared.
Okie dokie.
Woo!
We're getting good at this.
Namaste, namaste, namaste.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.